Good morning and welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning. If you're watching us live on Facebook, we appreciate that. Of course, we want to remind folks that Facebook does keep the video on our timeline and circulating throughout the day. So if you ever don't have a chance to watch me in the morning or watch the show in the morning, if it's not me sitting in the booth, you can always come back to our Facebook page and check it out later. That it stays all day. Actually, it stays forever. We also upload these shows to www.livingstonparishnewscom/podcast. We do also have a free part of our website, www.livingstonparishnewscom/coronavirus, where you can check out all the coronavirus information we've been putting out there regarding Livingston Parish. So please check that out again, www.livingstonparishnewscom/coronavirus. Looking at the traffic today, still looking that anecdotal evidence still looking to be true. A lot of people look to be trying to head to work. There's some heavy delays in and around 447 and 190 in Walker, as well as Jubin Road and 190. Minor delays at 4-H Club Road, River Road, and 190, and minor delays throughout Denham Springs. You're looking at pretty heavy delays at I-12 and Range Avenue. However, I-12 looking relatively clear this morning heading into Baton Rouge. So if you're heading to work in Baton Rouge today, should have a pretty clear commute. It's currently 75 degrees, 82 degrees is going to be your high today, 60 your overnight low. You're looking at some possible thunderstorms as you can look outside. Kind of dreary today. Had some pretty nasty thunderstorms last night. Even heard some hail pelting the side of the house. So hope you had your cars protected. We had predicted some severe weather overnight. Didn't know it was going to get that bad though. So hope it didn't hit anyone too hard or any harder than it hit anyone else. There was a crash yesterday. We talked about some delays on 190 in and around the industrial park. This was why. There is a secondary entrance to the industrial park that Martin Brower trucks tend to use. They deliver the McDonald's food. They were hit by a Canadian National train roughly at about 3:30 a.m. One of the Martin Brower trucks was hit by a Canadian National train around 3:30 a.m. It caused delays and backups all the way into almost the 9 o'clock hour as they tried to clean up the debris from the crash itself, get the train out of there, as well as clean up the food. So it took quite a while. Again, that got cleaned up about 9 a.m. Walker PD worked the scene. No injuries reported. Just a pretty nasty crash. We do have a photo of it on our website. We're looking at, with the novel coronavirus and its spread through Louisiana, 25,258 cases, 1,473 deaths, 1,747 patients on 287 ventilators. Now, remember, some of these deaths are kind of lag reporting because the coroner has to do an autopsy or something like that. Right now, they're saying that the jump from yesterday to today, in terms of the aggregate numbers, was about 77. However, the new probable deaths were 59. So you got about 18 that were on a lag there. 59 are expected to have happened in the last 24 hours. Of course, there's not a lot of lag, but they're still working through some kinks with regard to reporting cases or new cases or new tests. New tests are not being reported at this time while they audit the process, try to figure out where a lot of the work's being gummed up, I guess you can say. However, new cases are still being reported. In Livingston Parish, 161 cases total, 10 deaths on 426 tests. Now, please remember, I was asked to remind folks that we do have a couple of testing sites. As I understand it, they are still stood up if you do get a letter from your doctor saying that you need to go have a test. One of the testing sites is at Our Lady of the Lake Livingston. It's open Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. There's also a fast testing site at our Lake After Hours, which is also in Our Lady of the Lake property, north of the fast food four-way on Highway 16 near Watson. So you can go to either one of those places. Please remember, you must have a doctor's note in order to go. Yesterday, the governor in his press conference said that, or is asking at this point, two things. One, he is asking for people to follow the CDC guidelines about wearing a mask and those mitigation efforts. Let's talk about that real quick. The CDC upgraded their guidelines to not require, but recommend that people wear masks in public. They say it helps protect you from others, and it helps others protect you from them. So you are also, everybody's protecting both themselves and other people by wearing a mask, because it also catches that particulate if you happen to have COVID-19. So they have upgraded that to a recommendation. However, they're saying that gloves are not necessarily required. In fact, they can cause a lot of problems. What they're finding is this can live on synthetic surfaces and non-skin surfaces for a while. COVID-19 can. And they're finding that a lot of people aren't cleaning their gloves after using them. They will wash their hands, but they won't clean their gloves. And of course, they'll touch their gloves, get it on their hands, and then off we go. So one of the things they're recommending is, if you're not used to wearing gloves, don't wash your hands consistently and don't touch your face. A lot of that goes into those mitigation measures. Let's talk about them real quick. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds or more. Disinfect common surfaces at home and at work. Wear a mask in public if at all possible. Don't touch your face. Control your sneezing and your cough with an elbow or your tissue, or with your elbow or a tissue. 10 or less to a gathering, preferably less. Work from home if possible, and stay home if you are sick. Of course, the stay-at-home order is still in effect through April 30th. That is a week from today, so welcome to the countdown. As of right now, as of yesterday, the governor did say that the state is trending in the right direction for that stay-at-home order to at least be, is probably going to be lifted. Proclamations are going to be amended to change some of the language and some of the things that will be allowed and won't be allowed. Over the next week, we're hoping to hear from the governor in terms of some details on how he plans to change that. The governor did say that he's not going to leave Louisiana sort of hanging, I guess you can say. He is going to try to release this new information before we get to that April 30th, May 1st bridge, so people will be ready and prepared for the change. One of the things he did say, though, is he is hoping that Louisiana residents will manage expectations as things change. This is going to come in phases. How people treat the new proclamation and how they treat mitigation efforts and social distancing is going to depend. I guess you can say it's going to manage the speed of which this occurs. A lot of times they're going to be looking at internal data. If we see a spike in cases, or even just a spike in people presenting at the hospital with symptoms, which is part of that 14-day trend we talk about, they're going to pump the brakes. So one of the things he did say yesterday, which was very interesting, is the state has worked mostly on internal models and guidelines from the federal government. For instance, the social distancing report card from Unicast does not factor into their decisions. They might talk about it and say, hey, can we do a better job? But right now they are following their modeling as well as federal guidelines. And that's one thing he said a lot. The governor has presented their plan to the vice president and the president sometimes multiple times a week and have been given the green light to do what they're doing. So we are here in Louisiana a hotspot, and it's going, a lot of this is going to depend on how we social distance and work those mitigation and hygiene efforts moving forward as we enter this new normal. And that's also part of the, I guess you can say, managing expectations, because a lot of people are going to be wearing masks in public as they need to be. A lot of offices are going to be practicing varying social distancing measures and that sort of thing. So things are going to look different when you go out there, even after April 30th. And the governor recommends that the more strict we follow the mitigation efforts and the social distancing leading up to a potential vaccine, the more pieces of the economy that we can stand up and the quicker we can move towards an economic rebound. Of course, excuse me. Of course, the biggest thing is the first industry coming up will be expanded healthcare. So those folks that have postponed their elective procedures, screenings, and things like that can get back in there, get back up to date with their doctor, and kind of move forward with that. Looking at it's going to look a little different. However, One of the things that we've also discussed is the governor has, his commission, Resilient Louisiana. I don't know why I said some may know, some may not. The governor did form a Resilient Louisiana Commission, which is sort of I guess you can call it the governing body of these task force that are going to be working on individual industries and the plan to stand them back up as the economy reopens. The governor had a phone call with the commission yesterday before his press conference, and then had a conference call coming up after his press conference to talk to a large group of individual task force leaders. And of course, when you can't touch your face is when it itches the most. That is going to be moving the economy forward. A lot of the decisions for the healthcare industry have already been made, moving towards, again, that April 30th, May 1st date. However, he is going to be taking recommendations from the healthcare task force as the state moves even further along in reopening the economy. Of course, there will be task force formulated for all sorts of different industries as folks try to move back to work in an economically stimulating way, but also with regard to the public health. So we're going to see how the state handles that moving forward. There is a meeting at 8:30. I see it is about 8:07 that I'm going to try to jump on. It is open to the public. So I don't want to rush through the rest of this, but we are going to try to wrap up here so I can jump on that call. Livingston Parish is second in the capital region in terms of unemployment raw numbers, not necessarily rate, but definitely in raw numbers. East Baton Rouge Parish has 36,400 current or new claimants with 440,000 people. Ascension Parish has 9,600 claimants on 126.6 thousand people, and Livingston Parish has 11,094 claimants on 140.7 thousand people. The real-time unemployment in Louisiana is expected to be about 25.2%, according to 50economy.org. $561 million have gone out to 300,000 plus unemployment claimants from the Louisiana Workforce Commission. Now, you got to remember that number is inflated because of the $600 increase from the government as part of the CARES Act. But you are looking at quite a bit of money. It's about 4 or 5 times the number of claimants in a month that the state usually gets. So it's a tough time for the Louisiana economy, as a lot of folks are hitting up the they're hitting up the government. They need the money. People have been furloughed. Businesses have closed. It's going to be a tough time. But as we mentioned, these task forces and commissions are already meeting to try to open up the economy, and we got a week to go on the stay-at-home order. Of course, sometime this weekend, starting next week, we will see if the anecdotal evidence from Easter proves true, and we might see a spike in cases. Let's hope not, because one of the things we discussed earlier was the 14-day period. Didn't go into too much detail. We've discussed it previous days, but basically you have to show fewer people with symptoms, fewer new cases, and fewer hospitalizations. You have to be trending downward. Now, it's a trend downward over 14 days, so you may have a spike, or you may have a spike or 1 or 2 days, but overall, if the overall 14-day trend is downward, you're good to go to begin phase 1 of reopening the economy. Now, yesterday, we learned more about the plan that's going to be put in place in terms of an emergency plan for elections. The primary election for president has been moved to July, with municipal elections moved to August 15th. Presidential primary is on July 11th. There will be an expanded early voting. Usually it lasts about 6 days. It'll go Saturday to Saturday with Sunday off. Now it's going to be 13 days. Not entirely sure what those dates are going to look like locally. The Senate Committee for Government Affairs, just accepted this plan yesterday. It's still going to have to pass the Senate itself, then the House, and then be signed by the governor. However, the governor did say at his press conference that he believes that it is a good plan, and in order to get it out of committee, it's going to go about as far as it can. They are going to relocate polling places outside of senior citizen and senior centers. Yes, those seniors might have to go somewhere else. It will depend, because they're also expanding, the ability to apply for a mail-in ballot. Now, those criteria have always been pretty stringent, but now you're looking at people who might have symptoms of COVID-19, people who are on a mandatory quarantine, the elderly and high risk. There's some more details to that, but they do have a chance to apply for mail-in, and we talked about them moving a lot of voting places out of senior centers. There's also, of course, those who are under a mandatory quarantine or who are waiting for results. Excuse me, I already said mandatory quarantine, but those who might have shown symptoms, gotten tested, and are waiting for results, they will be able to apply for a mail-in ballot. Yesterday, over the last week, but yesterday we came out with a story. A lot of businesses, especially in retail, are trying to do their best to navigate this new economy post or during this time of COVID-19 and its spread. We talked to a lot of people in the Antique District in Denham Springs who are offering curbside service, live auctions or live sales on their Facebook pages, doing everything they can to stay in touch with their customers, keep top of mind, and deliver to them in a way that is safe during this time of COVID-19. A couple of stores did say that in and around May 1st, they do intend to open with limited occupants in the store at any given time. They'll be sanitizing the stores every day, as well as putting up shields at the checkout counter between the employees and the customers. So it's a very interesting time. Some of the store owners said things were slower. Some said things were about the same. According to John Cavalier from Cavalier House Books, transactions are moving slower. They haven't seen a downtick just yet, but a downtick in book sales. They have seen a downtick in some of the other things that they do, including, of course, book fairs at schools. Schools are closed. Gosh, allergies this morning killing me. So, these businesses, especially retail, when you cannot, you're relying on foot traffic, trying to get as many people in front of your goods as possible. Now they're looking for eye traffic using social media and that kind of thing to stay in touch with their customers. So you can check that out. www.livingstonparishnews.com/coronavirus. Just released that story yesterday. One last time, let's go around with your coronavirus statistics. 25,258 cases, 1,473 deaths, 1,747 patients on 287 ventilators, 161 cases in Livingston Parish, 10 deaths on 426 tests right now. Remember, they are auditing the test process. Please remember your mitigation efforts. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds. Disinfect common surfaces at home and at the office. Wear a mask when going in public and going to work. Per CDC guidelines, it's a high recommendation. Don't touch your face. Control your sneeze or your cough with your elbow or a tissue. 10 or less to a gathering, preferably less. Work from home if possible. And remember, stay home if you are sick. One last time with your traffic, you're looking at delays at 4-H Club Road, River Road, and 190 in Denham Springs, as well as Jubin Road and 190, also 447 and 190. Some delays there. Heavier delays in and around I-12 and Orange Avenue. However, I-12 looking relatively clear as you drive into Baton Rouge. It's currently 75 degrees, 82 degrees is your high, 60 degrees your overnight low. Thunderstorms are possible today and into the evening hours. We had some rough storms last night. One last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning for the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. Please remember we are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays. That is today. You will get a bonus 5th issue for this month. It's $7 a month to get that delivered to your mailbox. We're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We also have a free page that we've talked about, www.livingstonparishnews.com/coronavirus. Also want to give a shout out to my friend, Mr. John Cavalier, who gave us the news a shout out yesterday. With regard to our coverage, we are working hard over here. It is $5 a month for an online subscription. It does give you access to the entire website. However, right now, pretty much everything we're putting out is free. So we know a lot of people are taking advantage of that. We hope you have a great day. We know it's a little dreary outside. Stay dry if you do get thunderstorms throughout the day, and we will catch you tomorrow morning right here in my little corner.